DORK Podcast with Rich Keefe. It's the DORK Podcast. Ryan Davey. It's the DORK Podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe. Dem Thrones Boyz, mostly back, 2/3 back. Davey's in parts unknown, but we got Chris Scheim in the house. Scheim, how are you, sir?
I am wonderful, Keefe. How are you today?
I'm great. We just took in episode 2 of season 2 of House of the Dragon. And once again, this will be all spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, maybe just pause the podcast, go back, watch the whole thing, and then jump in and get in on episode 2 of what is only going to be an 8-episode season 2 of House of the Dragon. Although we talked last week about how they've already picked it up for a season 3. And man, a lot of different ways we can go with it, Sean. But first of all, twin fight. You had a straight up twin fight in this one. And it was funny because earlier in the episode, I was trying to think of like characters that I like and sort of the differences between this and like just straight up Game of Thrones. And I was like starting to warm up to the twins. I was like, oh, Eric and Eric. Like I kind of like these guys, like one on each side. Like that's pretty cool. And then boom, fight, double KO.
Yeah, that was wild too. And like the ending was a bit of a curveball. So like I didn't expect the winner to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna commit seppuku here and just call it quits.
He's like, that's it for me. I can't do it. Like I can't live in a world. And it is funny, like it's the classic twin thing you see in movies and TV shows, but it's also one where I'm like, I'd be in the same boat. They're both wearing armor, they both have long hair and the goatee. And the other guy that comes in to help Rhaenyra is like, which one's Eric?
I was waiting for them to go, I'm Sir Eric. No, I'm Sir Eric.
I thought it was gonna be like, help me out. No, you help me out. But they didn't go that. Like they didn't go funny with it.
Because they were, as he's sneaking his way through the castle, he was giving people the old Scooby-Doo. And I'm like, oh, this is total Scooby-Doo cliche that they both shout out that they're Eric, and then you don't know which one to kill. And then the evil Eric is the one that pops out clean and free. But that did not happen here.
It did not happen. It's so the Rhaenyra that we know, I'm sorry, the Eric that's on Rhaenyra's side. As far as I know, Rhaenyra not a twin.
No, not a twin.
The Eric that is on Rhaenyra's side did come out victorious, but he was just like so upset that he did.
Well, so I question that because Eric didn't like plan on this, right? He was just defending his queen. So if I'm that Eric, if I'm Rhaenyra's Eric, if I win the fight, I wouldn't just like then give up my life. My brother clearly attacked us. Like I had no malicious intent. I was simply defending myself and my queen. Whereas the other Eric killed his brother when he was supposed to be killing the queen, and that kind of grief would be like, oh, that makes sense. I'm gonna just off myself. And that's why when he says, your grace, I'm sorry, maybe I don't think he was necessarily directing that at Rhaenyra, and he was more so directing it to Aegon, but just saying it from afar.
Possible. We don't,
and not that it matters. They're both dead, so it doesn't really matter. But
I'm just curious, right? Yeah, because like from both sides of it, like if you were the one that's on the side, or you just like, oh my god, I can't believe that my brother got this close to killing you, and like it came down to this, and I'm just like embarrassed by it, or I don't know.
Yeah, because I think if Rhaenyra's Eric had won, he would have more like fallen to a knee and been like, my grace, please forgive me, and then like been more remorseful in that way before he, offed himself.
Because part of me also thought that there was a chance that the Hightower's Eric was going to show up and realize like Sir Criston Cole wants me dead. And Sir Criston Cole, when they had that little back and forth, like in the dining hall when they were kind of talking shit, and he's like, where were you when the prince was killed? And then he's like, well, I was with the king actually. And he's like, where were you? And he's like, wait a minute, what? Like don't worry about where I was.
Don't ask me. I'm the one asking questions here.
It's got nothing to do where I was. And so then he's like, you need to go kill Rhaenyra. And he's like, by myself? And he's like, yeah, you do. And he's like, you're a twin. You can do the twin thing. And I thought he was gonna be like on his journey over there being like, this guy just wants me dead. He set me up to fail. So I thought in my mind, there's a chance that both Erics could be on Rhaenyra's side, but obviously that didn't happen.
Well, so my thought too is I'm curious why Hightower Eric didn't simply just go speak to the king and be like, my king, I was protecting you all night the night your son died, so like I was doing my part in protecting the family. Like Criston Cole now wants me to go kill Rhaenyra. Like do you want me to, like, am I supposed to do this, or should we send like a legitimate assassin instead of me just trying to do the old twin thing and get away with it?
Yeah, that is reckless, but it also highlights just the young guns taking over in the Hightower camp, and you have the young king who no longer wants to listen to his hand. You have the guy that's like in charge of the King's Guard who's also banging the king's mom,
The
and
Queen Dowager. Yep.
Queen Dowager, and he doesn't know like what's up and what's down. He just knows how to fight and like whatever. And so these guys want revenge, and so this season's going quick. Like some of these storylines I thought actually could have gone on. Like I see in the chat someone's talking about how this is a build-up episode. I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously it's building up towards like a grander thing and like these two sides going up against each other. But I thought you could have stretched out the twin thing a little bit longer. You probably could have stretched out Damon and Rhaenyra a little bit longer, and just sort of like it was sort of an instant like there was no search. You know, episode 1 ended so crazy, and this picked up right where that left off, and they already had the guy in custody, and they were like kind of off and running.
Yeah, and it was weird. Like they did set the twin thing up briefly in the last episode. Like they mentioned it, right? They gave you that little breadcrumb and then kind of pulled it together with this one. But like I also kind of understand what he means when he said AC says like build up episode, because theoretically outside of a double KO twin event, like nothing really happened here, right? Like it was a whole episode of just kind of understanding the conflict of going on, like the fallout from killing the child, which we all expected to happen, right? Rhaenyra is now the bad guy. They're going to blame Rhaenyra regardless of who it was that wanted to kill. Damon was like, yeah, it was a mistake. Like these guys are idiots. What do you want me to? It's not my fault. Like I wanted them to kill Aemond, and they couldn't figure out the guy with the eye patch versus a little child. And so it's kind of like just the fallout from episode 1 and then a double KO out of the twins at the end. And like that was the episode, it felt like.
I did think there was like there were some other parts though, like you said, that are going to play a pretty major role. I mean, removing the hand is big. Like the hand plays such a major role in like this entire series, and like it's usually the hand that's actually in charge, or at least can convince the king or queen to do what they want to do, right? And how they sort of see fit. And we asked last week, does Otto Hightower remain hand the rest of the season? And we were all like, no chance. I didn't think it was going to be episode 2.
Yeah, literally one episode later.
One episode later, he's tossing his little pin. Now, is that the same pin that like everybody wears, like Tyrion?
Yeah, that is the legitimate hand of the king pin. And now Kristen Cole is going to be not only the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, but also the hand of the king.
Yeah. So we know he's had a hard time with some of his equipment before, you know, trying to get all that stuff off. I remember Kristen Cole last season saying this:
too much fucking shit on me, I can't breathe.
So he's gonna have to get his gear off, because you can't pin that on the armor. It's just gonna fall right off every time.
Yeah, and as you saw here at the end of the episode, he was in the Queen's chambers, already had his gear off. Somehow someone helped him take all that shit off.
It's like it's gonna be like that guy that goes from like, you know, basically just like bodyguard to like wearing like a suit, like in the boardroom. They're like so uncomfortable and be like, I shouldn't fucking be doing this. But yeah, that's what he's doing. No, but I think the hand was important, and then also just sort of the how they're playing this whole, I mean, for lack of a better term, the Game of Thrones, and how they are dealing with it right now, and how at the beginning of this episode, Otto, now let me ask you this: is Otto just the biggest prick in the world, or is he a master strategist? Because we just saw one of the most grim things ever on television in the season 1, the end of season 1 or episode 1, and then he's like, hey, some good could come of this. Like that was one of his first lines, where everybody else is freaking out. The king, rightfully so, is freaking out. Everybody's crying and depressed, and he's like, hey, wait a minute, gang, this actually could work out for us. Is that just the guy being a shithead, or is he actually kind of smart?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I think he is very much just like Tywin Lannister in that, like, okay, he's my blood, but he's not like my direct blood, right? Like, clearly to Otto, the only people that matter are him and Alicent. Like, it's clear and evident that those are the two people that matter, and they're going to together gain as much power as they can garner. Right? Everyone else he almost views as different, right? They are Targaryens to him, whereas she is still his daughter. And so like he lost his great grandson, and he's like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, that's real tough and it's sad, but like, we can use this to our advantage here in the war, because he's always thinking war and Allison come first, and like winning and being in charge come first. And so I think that was kind of why he came off like such a shithead.
Then they do the public funeral, which is fucking insane. And when they got the little wagon stuck,
Oh,
didn't
God.
you think the poor kid was gonna fall off of that thing? Like the way it was set up,
100%.
the way it was rocking back and forth, I'm like, they're not gonna do this.
And the
are they?
head was gonna roll like that. I expected the whole thing.
Thankfully, they did not do that. They did not go down that road. They also, I love the scene where they catch the guy. So there's the rat catcher and the other guy that obviously go in there and commit this heinous act, and they immediately find the one guy, and he's sitting there, and the dude with the club foot, he comes walking in. All he does is put tools down on a bench, and the guy's like, Damon Targaryen. He told me he paid me half now. He's gonna give me half later. Like, he was not messing around. And then he's like, "You're not gonna hurt me, are you?" Like, dude, do you know what you just did?
Killed a child. Like, you
No
just
chance.
you just killed the heir to the throne, who is like 4 years old.
It's
And like, that's the other thing too, is I love how he immediately tries to throw Damon under the bus. Like, Damon didn't specifically say to him, "Hey, we want you to kill Aemond. He's the guy with the eye patch and the long silver hair, very hard to miss."
Yeah, he's like, nope.
He ignored it and killed a child.
And so that was cool, because I think it gives you a little, like, I like Aegon a little bit, right? And like when he goes in there, and like, that's how most people would react if something like that
losing his mind. Yeah.
Yes, he's losing his mind. He clearly cares quite a bit about his kid.
Absolutely.
And then he goes in there, he sees the guy who did it. He takes the fucking banister or whatever he had with him and just clubs the guy to death in the face. Like, all right, kind of like this guy. Like, last week we were talking about how the Game of Thrones has gone down the road of like the young, inexperienced, shouldn't be on the throne character. But he's not like as bad. Like, he's just immature, right? Like, he's not Joffrey. He's not like a maniac. He just shouldn't be there, but he's not like the worst kid in the world.
No, his big thing is he just doesn't want to be seen as weak. He says it over and over again. He's like, I don't want to appear weak, which is why he hung all of the rat catchers, because he didn't know which one it was. So he's like, I'm gonna get one of them. I get the right one if I hang them all. And how he beat the crap out of the guy who killed his son. Like, he's just a normal dude who wanted retribution and just does not want to be seen as weak.
And I think like he has a weird way of showing it, but like there was that scene on the stairs where he passes his wife
slash sister
wife. Yeah, but not like that.
No, different.
I like the very popular show.
Like that, but different.
But they pass her, they look at each other, and like I think like they both understand what the other one is going through. Like, they don't show any like real sign of it, but I think they can tell. But it is,
and they're coping with it in different ways. Like, he is coping with it with anger, and she's coping with it with like silence and reclusion.
Yes, but like I don't think he's like mean to her. Like, it's a weird spot. Like, I don't think he's like a bad husband brother.
No, but like, he knows he can't comfort her. Like, he knows that if he was to talk to her about him, he would do nothing but get angry.
Correct.
Which doesn't help either of them.
You can't be like, hey, it's okay, because it's not okay. Yeah. So like,
exactly.
Yeah. So I think I don't mind Aegon. Jason in the chat's right. The poor rat catcher's dog, they showed him again. He got kicked last episode. This episode is looking up as all the rat catchers got hung.
Yeah, but he's better off without that guy. The guy kicked him. Like, come on. You deserve better than that, Mr. Dog.
Was it the rat catcher that? I don't think it was the rat catcher that kicked him.
The rat catcher kicked him.
Oh, fuck that. You're right. Yeah, forget it. I didn't know if it was the other guy that died first. Now that was a move that again strategically was dumb, but it also makes sense because he's like, hey, I got a guy. He's like, you killed all these innocent guys. He's like, and one guilty one.
Yeah, it shows Aegon's immaturity, because again, you could have just had Clubfoot interview all the rat catchers and figure out which one it was, because that's kind of his job, and he would have figured it out one way or another. But instead, he's like, no, I don't really care who it is. Hang them all.
Yeah. I did like when they're having that back and forth, King Aegon and Otto Hightower, and then he's like, well, like, Sir Kristen's got a plan, and then Otto's face is like, what they I
He's
have.
like, what fucking plan did you two numbskulls cook up this time?
He like already knew because like otherwise like I kind of hate Otto. Like I think you're supposed to
Yeah.
hate Otto. Like you can't
Yes.
stand the guy. Like he's a scumbag. Like he put his daughter in position to be with Viserys, which is so gross and like
Ugh.
whatever. He's just it's all about power plays with him, and he's just so cold and that's all he thinks about. But it was hilarious to because like those other two, you're like, what are these guys gonna come up with? And he's like, what can I ask? Is that they're like he's gonna. Well, he's sending Eric to go kill Rhaenyra, and he's like,
Twin thing. He literally said he's gonna do the twin thing.
yeah, he's gonna do, yeah, it's a great plan. Dude, it's a great plan. So
Flawless, really. Flawless execution.
okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm glad you guys came up with that. So what's up with what's next with Otto Hightower? Because he said he was gonna go back to wherever
Hightower.
Hightower, but then Allison was like, why don't you go somewhere else? So what do you think? Are we going to
So
see him?
Allison,
We must.
yeah, we'll see him again, but it'll probably be a couple episodes. Allison is sending him or trying to convince him to go visit the Tyrells. We know Highgarden from present Game of Thrones. That she wants him to go visit them to kind of reassure the relationship between the Crown and the Tyrells because that seems to be wavering apparently. And so my guess is Otto will be kind of an emissary to Highgarden here and be gone for a couple episodes. And Allison will more or less be left in charge of dealing with Aegon and Kristen Cole, which could end up an absolute mess, which is good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So yeah, I think and she's like trying to bring him back. I think we'll see him again. What'd you make of the Rhaenyra and Daemon confrontation? So Rhaenyra's sitting around the high table, and I think she's also realizing like, fuck, like I don't really know if I have a bunch of people here that I can trust because they don't seem like they trust me, kind of thing. Like I'm not saying she's second guessing what's going on. Like I think Allison is straight up second guessing like a lot of stuff, and she's like,
everything.
We've gone way too far. She's like, I don't want to be around anymore. She's slipping into her bath. She's like, this is horrible.
It was their literal way of telling you Allison feels like she is over her head and underwater.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's like, this is way too much. And then even at the end, the very end of the episode, she's like pissed at Sir Kristen Cole. She's smacking him around a little bit, but all that did was light a fuse.
Yeah, he really became the hand of the queen there.
He has been the mouth of the queen. He's been the hand of the queen.
Yeah, shout out to Jason for that line. You're welcome.
That is a good line. That is a good line. Oh yeah, hand of the queen. I didn't even see that in there. Yeah, absolutely. He's been.
But like it's interesting, right? The dynamics that are going on with the quote unquote lovers, right? It's Kristen Cole and Allison who literally can't get enough of each other. And like Rhaenyra and Daemon, Rhaenyra is just kind of over. She's at the point where she's like, I can't deal with you anymore. Like I literally cannot do this anymore because clearly I think she's coming to the realization that a lot of viewers are realizing is at times it felt like Daemon was doing this for Rhaenyra. And like, yeah, it was self-interest as well. But like a lot of it was also for Rhaenyra because he's always had this weird affection for her, even when she was a child, which was really creepy. But now you're realizing, no, Daemon is just always out for himself. He always does this for himself. He's mad about the fact that he didn't get the crown from his brother. Like he is mad about not being king and he wants people to recognize him as the king.
So I thought that was a good conversation too, because Daemon was just like, oh, like your brother was like afraid that I was going to like overstep him or whatever. And she's like, no, like just like me, he couldn't trust you. I don't trust you. And it's funny. Like this episode, I feel like there was a bunch of characters, including Otto Hightower, that were sort of like talking up Viserys, being like, it's always that case though, right? It's like, yeah, you didn't realize how good it was until that guy's gone.
But that guy really sucked.
Yeah. But he's like, but he didn't like, but the world was kind of decent, right? Like there weren't a lot of wars.
It was peaceful.
Yeah, it was fine. It was good. But then there's a lot of people that wish they had that power, and now everybody's kind of fighting for it, still kind of up in the air. And then like one person that probably didn't even really want it is who has it now. And now too, Otto almost let it slip when he was just like, oh, like your dad was right about you. And he's like, he put me in power. He's like, okay, that's what you think.
Oh, that's what you think. Yeah. And it's funny. I'm curious to see exactly where Daemon goes as well, right? They somebody said, oh, he probably went to Harrenhal, I think is what Viserys said to Baela. And so I'm curious if he's going to go basically do what he did with the crab people and just burn a bunch of people alive, or if he's going to do something else that's even far more reckless.
Mm-hmm. I see somebody in the chat talking about the title of the episode. I honestly can't find it. So somebody
The
said
title was "I Love You, Brother," I believe.
okay, yeah, because somebody said, why is it called The Witch Queen? I'm like, it's not. I think I've seen Brother in Arms, and then I've also seen I Love You, Brother. So I think it might be called I Love You, Brother, which makes way more sense. I mean, it's the Eric thing.
Yes, exactly. And I think I'm almost positive it is titled "I Love You, Brother."
Okay. I
And
looked it up
it
on
is.
HBO and they didn't have it yet, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's this weird thing too. So also instant karma for Rhaenyra, by the way. She decides she finds out about malaria. Malaria, is that her name? That's also a disease. I can't remember. Mysaria, maybe. I don't know. The White Widow lady, who used to be Daemon's lover and is now basically this version of Varys.
Oh yeah, the Whisperer.
Whisperer, yeah, the Whisperer lady. Daemon tells Rhaenyra about her, so Rhaenyra brings her in, chats with her. She's like, "Oh yeah, White Worm, that's what it is." Thank you, Corey.
White Worm.
And they have that discussion. She's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna live up to Daemon's words. You're free. You can go do what you want. Like, I'll send you on a ship. You can head to Bravos or Pentos or wherever she was going, and go live your life. You're free to go." And she's like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And as she's going to her ship, notices the double Erics. And then she's like, sir, please hold up. We have an issue. Yeah. Dude. And that's the whole reason that Rhaenyra is still alive.
Saved Rhaenyra. She saved her. Yeah. So she now has an ally. All right. Like, don't you think she's going to catch up with her again and there's going to be something else?
Well, yeah, it's that instant karma of Rhaenyra allowed the freedom. She helped Rhaenyra, and now maybe they're kind of almost like trauma bonded together, and they're women searching for power in this world dominated by men, and they're going to kind of stick together.
Question from the YouTube chat. Do we know which dragon we saw when the dude was on the beach? I'm 99% sure that was Daemon, right? Because we saw Daemon take off and leave.
Daemon's dragon is red. The dragon flying above was silver, which leads me to believe it was actually Moon Dancer, which is Baela's dragon. She was going to scout King's Landing.
Okay, so there's at least 2 dragons on the move this episode because Rhaenyra was talking to Baela and was like, can you take her and like stay away, stay high? And then the other one, we saw Daemon like pack his shit and go. Yeah, Daemon's dragon's also enormous and has like sort of like a forked tail.
Yeah, like the devil tail, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
It's dope.
I do like Baela though. They little setup with Baela and one of Rhaenyra's, well, I guess Rhaenyra's only son at this point, right? Or does she have another one?
She has 2. She has the little baby infant one, and then this one, the older one. I think the older one's name is Jacaerys.
Yeah, so
right?
Jace
and Baela. And Luke.
Yeah, so Jace and Baela, I feel like could both be good characters going forward.
Oh, don't you expect them fully to like get married?
Yes. Yeah,
like they're gonna be betrothed or whatever, and
yeah, that'd be a good power couple. They've seen some shit. They also, I feel like, can relate, like knowing how messed up
their parents are, and they recognize it too. Like she's like, yeah, I kind of hate my dad. He's kind of a douche.
Yeah,
and Jacaerys is talking about his 2 more or less dads. And like neither of them are there anymore. And so he's kind of alone and she's kind of alone because her dad's a douchebag. And so they're kind of figuring it out together.
100%. And they're both badass. They both have dragons. They both can fight. Like they're young, but like they have like good head on their shoulders. And if they were together, there'd be, I guess, a little incest.
Yeah, it's cousins. It's not quite as bad as brother sister, but like cousins.
Yeah. I can get behind that as far as Targaryens are concerned.
Cousins.
Yeah,
it's some kind of weird. No, because like it's some kind of weird cousin, right? Because Daemon's technically Rhaenyra's uncle, and Baela is her like his daughter. So that makes Rhaenyra and her cousins, which makes her and Jace second cousins. There you go. Not as bad.
Which is so bizarre, right? Because like Daemon and Rhaenyra now are married, and then they each had kids from previous relationships, and then those are those kids.
Yes.
So that's what they're. But I like them because that was one of my things. Like, I feel like
they're level-headed. All of the younger generation are much more like normal, not level-headed most times, but like Aegon's not level-headed, but he's normal. He has normal reactions.
Yeah. No, I do like them. But one thing, I feel like the original Game of Thrones did better. Now they also have so many seasons, so many episodes. I feel like there were more great characters. There was more of a who are your 5 favorite characters, and you're like, shit, like I'm leaving out 5. I'm leaving out 10. Like there's just so many good ones. And it was pretty right away. Right? Like early on, it didn't take too long where you're like, oh, like I love Arya Stark, or I love Jon Snow, or I like Robb Stark, or I like, Daenerys or whatever. Like there was a million early on. Khal Drogo, like you had a bunch of characters you could like. I like a bunch of characters in this. Like I like Rhaenyra, but I don't know if I like love characters in this like I did in that.
You don't hate them quite to the levels that you hated people like Cersei and Joffrey, but like these characters in this show, you do hate more of them. Like I'm not liking Kristen Cole. I don't really like Alicent Hightower. I think Daemon is such a shithead. I kind of like him, but I think he's total shithead. I fucking hate Otto Hightower. So it's like there's way more characters that I want to dislike, but you're absolutely right. There's far less characters I love in this show. Like I like Rhaenyra. I think Rhaenyra is a really good character, but like I don't love her. I really like Rhaenys. I think Rhaenys is an awesome character.
Rhaenys might be the best one, and they're cooking something up. There's that scene with Rhaenys and the sea snake, kind of just like Corlys kind of. I like both of them. Yeah, and there's some more there, and like talking about how, she could have easily been on the throne. She got passed over, and they're trying to still figure things out. Like they're clearly they're on Rhaenyra's side, I would say for now.
Well, she even mentions she's like, I'll support the queen. I'll be there for the queen, even if Daemon isn't. And so like she clearly is in full support of Rhaenyra at this point.
Let's see what else was there. So Aemond, eye patch Aemond, who survived the attack.
How fucking skinny is this guy? Can we get this guy a meal, please?
Skinniest guy in the world. You don't realize
Skeletor.
He is skin and bones. This guy.
Holy smokes!
Like, then he's like curled up in the brothel.
He looks like Voldemort coming out of the pot in Harry Potter, like when they're trying to rebirth him.
He's all bones.
Oh god, it was disgusting.
You get that guy off the dragon, you're having no problem beating him up. Like
like Daemon was saying to the guy who murdered the child, like, oh yeah, he's a good fighter. He'll put up a good fight. How is that guy able to hold a sword?
No, he can't. He looks like Ichabod Crane. I'm not worried about fighting Aemond off of.
He has one eye.
He's got a huge dragon.
That's the tough part.
He also apparently has a thirst for MILFs or whatever that was. I don't know what you want to call that.
Yeah, that's exactly. He likes his mommies.
That was a scene in there.
Yeah, it was. But like again, we see him showing remorse for killing Luke, and it's kind of what we thought in the last episode, right? Where he clearly that's not what he intended to do. It's just kind of what happened and how things transpired. But he does in fact feel remorse for what happened.
Yeah, he does. But it's funny, like he told her, but he probably didn't tell anybody else that.
Yeah, no, he won't tell another soul, but he'll tell his mommy.
I was like, where are we going? And then they're like, you go to this thing. Because I was half expecting, and maybe I was wrong, but like just the way the episode was going, I thought maybe Daemon was just going to blow off some steam, and we might find Daemon in one of these like, areas with somebody.
Made sense.
And so you're like going through, you're like, oh no, that's not him. And you're like, wait, what? And you're like, who's this? And then he's all curled up, like he
like cuddling with her, like being held by her. They were pouring. Dina puts it out in the chat. They were pouring him warm milk.
Like I thought it was that milk of the poppy, or was that just
no? I think that was like warm milk. Like he's just like it was. They were really playing into the he needs to be a like baby child.
Yeah. Yeah, he never got really kind of hugged from Allison, maybe.
Yeah, he was not the favorite. He was made fun of too much.
Apparently he was, and that stung with him. They took his eye. That was a part of it. Also, like during this episode, I forgot going back to like all the relationships and like who's a cousin, who's an uncle, who's an aunt, who's married, and everything else. So you have Aegon, who's currently on the throne, and Aemond, and then like Helena, and like all of them, and they're all half brother and sister with Rhaenyra.
Correct.
Like, which is like obviously like we've talked about that, we know that, but it's just like as the like you kind of forget it. Like there are these two sides clearly, but you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Viserys is linked to both of them. That's why you have like Targaryens everywhere, and that's sort of the calling card of the Targaryens. Going back to when we first met them in the previous series, is like they don't really go outside of their bloodline.
But which also makes this more, I think, impactful in the grand scheme of things, right? Is because normally Targaryens only trust each other. Like
Yeah.
they only trust other Targaryens, where in this instance, it seems as though every available Targaryen is in some way conflicting with the others.
Yeah. No, that's true. Like you're not getting everybody on the same page. And like right now, if you had to bet, and I know we talked about last week more about like with the dragons, but put the dragons to the side because we know Rhaenyra has more of them. Her team has more of them. But just the brain power and also maybe like the potential armies. Like which side would be the betting favorite right now?
I think if you're talking armies, the High Towers would be the betting favorite. But like if you're just talking about individuals, like I think you have to make Rhaenyra the betting favorite. Like she seems to be the only one who
Yeah.
can see everything. Like at least the only Targaryen, right? Like Aegon clearly is not mature enough to see everything. Aemond only cares about himself and like being strong and powerful and helping his brother. Helena is tapped and she's just there to be Aegon's like quote unquote wife, right? So like the three of them are almost kind of useless. Daemon is reckless, and so Rhaenyra is the most controlled and has the ability to see the entire board, similar to Otto Hightower, but not quite as in depth.
Yeah, because like when you see them both sit at like their like meeting tables, right? Like the Knights of the Round Table, it's like you can't really get behind any of them, you know? Like
Yeah.
obviously Otto Hightower, while he was there, was trying to like coach up these young guys and to be like, hey, this is probably what we should do. But now that he's gone, who knows how that's gonna all turn
That
out?
could go to shit real fast.
Oh, absolutely. But then even Rhaenyra's side, it's like everybody kind of doubts her. Nobody really wants to go along her way. Plus, you had Daemon there squawking, but now Daemon's gone. So it's like both like going into episode 3, both sides are going to be very, very different, I think, because like their loudest voices are now gone.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like you would have to really consider Rhaenys to be like a front runner because she's
yeah.
just kind of sitting back and letting all the chaos unfold and waiting for an opportunity with her really powerful and rich husband to strike when when the time is right.
Well, and because they set that up too, like would Daemon challenge Rhaenyra? But I'm like, would Rhaenys challenge Rhaenyra?
Yeah,
And
and that's when she kind of retorted with, like he may not be here to support the queen, but I sure am. And like clearly like setting up the later betrayal where she won't be supporting the queen.
but also there's like those new characters that they sort of introduced. Was it Alan and
Oh, Alan and Adam.
Adam? Like, so these guys like that work with the sea snake, they know the Valerians. They're gonna play some sort of role. Like you don't just toss those guys in for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and then we also got the quick clip of Hugh with his
yes.
like wife and sick daughter. Do we even know Hugh? Did I miss something?
No, I don't remember Hugh. I don't remember any Hugh. They're just showing like a little bit of like regular folk, I guess.
Yeah, like unless he comes into play later,
Yeah.
I don't know. But like he gets tossed in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, his daughter's sick. He's just a common folk guy waiting for the king to pay him money. Okay, is this leading to a peasants' revolt? Is that what we're getting to? Like
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, all right, so she had to pay a lot for that chicken. Like, I apologize.
yeah,
That's
3 times as much as normal. That's tough. Inflation is a brutal thing.
trust me, I'm there, man.
Yeah, we get it.
A lot of money on berries for these girls and stuff. I'm telling you, it's brutal. A lot of
Are they
fruit.
big blueberries or strawberries fans?
They love strawberries. They love raspberries. We'll mix it up. We'll get blueberries. We'll get fucking mangoes. Like you name it.
Blackberries.
Yes, a lot of fruit in the house. Always a lot of fruit
Nice.
in the house.
Hey, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Growing kids need good fruit.
They do. They absolutely do. It's just unfortunately it's expensive as all get out. But yeah, so I think episode 3 is going to be interesting because you're going to get both sides sort of having to like sort of regroup. Like there's now been multiple attacks on each house, and public perception from everybody outside of this, I would still think would be in favor of the High Towers. They probably
Yeah.
lost a little local love because of the rat catcher thing. But overall, like if all this word is getting out that like a baby was killed,
And it's Rhaenyra's fault.
right. I would say most people are on the side still of the High Tower, or not even High Tower anymore, I guess, or Allison's kid.
And good job by Ross and Jason. Hugh was the guy who went before the king in the episode 1, asking for more money because of they're like the steel makers and like the sword makers and stuff. And the king was like, "Yep, we'll get you more money." And Otto Hightower's like, "What are we doing? Stop promising people sheep and money."
Great call. Yes, thank you guys. That's why we love doing the live
Yes.
recap episodes, because people could check us on that. Yeah, you're right. Because that was part of the problem. The Aegon was like giving everybody everything, and they're like, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't. You do that with him. We got to do it with everybody. Can't do
I
that.
kind of thought too. We talked last week about. I thought he might give the hand of the king to Clubfoot, and I mean maybe Kristen Cole gets it, but I wonder if he puts Clubfoot like on the council, because he also got himself. He's the one that found the guys who did it. And they kind of give him a lot. So like his stock went up in the eyes of many.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Clubfoot's after. Like, I don't know exactly what his end goal is other than more feet stuff with the queen. Like, I don't know exactly what his end goal is.
Stuff with the queen. Yeah.
And so I am very curious to see kind of what he's after. Like, I don't know if he necessarily even cares about a seat on the council, or he likes just being the master of whispers and he's going to keep doing his thing and living
how
his.
Good would that be? Like, that's literally all he wants is foot stuff.
He's like more foot stuff from the queen.
So like, do you want to be like hand of the king? No, not really.
Nope.
I gathered up all this.
I want to be the foot of the queen.
So I could just like look at your feet, touch your feet, do that kind of thing. Like, Jesus Christ.
I need to touch myself while you touch your feet, please. Thank you.
All right. Most important question we ask every week: were there too many dragons, not enough dragons, just the right amount of dragons this week?
Not enough dragons. We got a couple, barely really any. It was the cool scene of Daemon riding out on his was pretty neat, but like then the one just flying overhead was fine, but like not enough dragons.
Definitely not enough dragons. This series promised dragons, and for the most part, they've lived up to it. There's been a lot of sweet dragon stuff. There's even, unfortunately, dragon on dragon. Last season. There wasn't really much. They talked about him a couple of times. You saw him kind of fly high in the sky. Not enough. I'd rather, even if it's a setup episode, if it's a setup episode with dragons, I'll take it.
They should have done the Bela Jace scene with them both on their dragons. Then would have been better. Because then you would have been also known for a fact if that in fact was Moon Dancer flying above Adam, who was just like hunting for crabs and such.
True. Now, if that was, and if anybody has any questions before we get out of here, fire them off in the chat, or comments or concerns, whatever. But do you think the fact that the guy saw Moon Dancer in the sky, is that just to tell us like, oh yeah, she's on her mission? Or does it tell us that like, maybe she doesn't know how to stay out of sight? Because didn't basically Rhaenyra be like, hey, be like really careful?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. It's setting up the fact that she's going to come back either injured or dead, and they're going to lose a dragon here because she is too careless with flying over King's Landing.
Yeah. I am curious to see. I mean, that's one of the calling cards of Game of Thrones is like characters can die at any time, but not like, it feels like we're still like introducing some characters or like getting to know some characters. And so like you cancel out the twins in this episode. Yeah. In Memoriam, House of the Dragon, it would be Eric and Eric.
And we lost the child in the previous episode.
Jesus Christ. Yes, we did. I wonder, like episode 3, do you think we lose anybody with a name, anybody we've talked about?
I hope we don't lose Bela. Like, that's the thing too. Like, if it is in fact Moon Dancer and that was Bela, like losing her would be brutal. Like, she seems like she would be a good foundational piece, a character you could get behind and root for, and to kill her that fast would be devastating.
All right, very good. Yeah, so next week we'll be back at it again. So this is now, according to Wikipedia, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been trying to refresh to see if I get the episode title. This one says Rhaenyra the Cruel, which would also make some sense. I mean, that's what they're trying to put out there. That's what they were chanting during the funeral.
Yep.
It's also Wikipedia, so like literally anybody in the world could have edited that. Because I know the brother one makes sense because of the Eric fight, but so does Rhaenyra the Cruel.
The New York Times has it as "Sleep with One Eye Open." We have found 4 different titles for this fucking episode.
How is that possible? Just Because you know what? Like when I clicked on it on HBO, it just said episode 2. It didn't actually say a title.
Yeah, IMDb still has just season 2, episode 2. It doesn't have a title yet.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's weird. Like season 2, episode 2 doesn't have a title, episode 3 doesn't, but episode 4 is Dance of Dragons.
Oh, I do want to see Dance of Dragons.
Yeah, that means there's a lot of dragon action coming up in 2 weeks.
Hell yeah. You know what? That makes sense. If they have a budget and they're like, listen, we can only do so much dragons.
We're gonna tease the dragons.
Yes. And if you don't get much in one episode, you know they're coming.
Oh yeah, you have to know. Like that's the whole point of the show, is it's all about the dragons.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So solid. We got a twin fight, double KO. Well, not really a double KO, but we got a KO, then a self KO. And then we have a new Hand of the King, and that is kind of where we're going. We've had assassination attempts on both sides.
Yes.
Both go poorly. Neither
horribly wrong. Both ended up with people dead that shouldn't have been dead.
Correct. They're doing horribly. Damon's also MIA. Damon's bailed with his dragon. So shit is going off. We'll be back next week for episode 3. Scheim, any final thoughts? Any final words?
Yeah, if you're gonna go kill somebody, hire a legitimate assassin. Stop hiring idiots.
Yeah, you got bullshit idiots out there.
You're literally the king or queen of your regions. You have plenty of money. Hire a faceless man to go do the job right.
Oh, unless you're
coming to my TED Talk.
You got a twin up your sleeve. You're trying to put
twin.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work. All right, thanks so much. Davey and I will be back. We'll tweet it out either tomorrow night or Tuesday night. We're going to do an episode tomorrow night or Tuesday night, one of the two. We will let you guys know. It'll be on YouTube. Then it'll be available via podcast. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Dork Podcast. Dem Thrones Boyz every Sunday night after the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend, tell a dork, and we will talk to you next week.
Valor Morgulis.